Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video, I want to talk more about patch 905. Patch 905 is going to be happening very soon, and it has a lot of things happening for it, like a variety of different class changes, covenant changes, legendary changes, and so much more. Another part of 905 that's getting changed is gearing, primarily the PvE section of the game, and certain aspects of it. Basically anything that isn't PvP is going to receive some sort of an upgrade. PvP right now gives you the most amount of gear very quickly, and while it is all versatility gear, which isn't everyone's best in slot stat, it is still quite a lot of gear, and people are acquiring it much faster than raiders or people that do dungeons. And in this video, I wanted to kind of make a culmination of all the different updates we covered in separate videos, but one video that talks about everything that Blizzard is doing for gearing and improvement in 905. So this information isn't going to be exactly new. In fact, this video is more of a recap of everything that Blizzard is going to be implementing so far in 905. There's most likely going to be even more updates in the future, potentially in 9.1. as that'll be a brand new patch that's a major patch with a brand new season for Mythic Pluses as well as PvP, brand new raid, as well as all the different gear that you get from those systems. So 905 most likely is going to implement some of the hot fixes in order to amp up the gearing for the PvE content to make it a little bit better, but 9.1 is where potentially we'll get some of the big updates when it comes to gearing, and potentially Blizzard making some huge headways in terms of how gear will be acquired and separated for PvE and PvP potentially. But let's first talk about Valor Points, as Valor Points are coming back in 905. Long story short, for Valor Points, it was a system back in the day that you would use in order to buy gear at some point in the expansions, but also use that Valor Points to upgrade gear to different ranks. Kind of like how when you PvP, whether it is casual PvP or arenas, you use honor points in order to upgrade the gear. But just like arena gear, it's going to have a cap, depending on how many Mythic Pluses you do, as Valor Points is going to be an answer for the Mythic Plus gearing conundrum, where Mythic Pluses right now don't feel nearly as rewarding when it comes to gear as BFA. BFA made it so that you were rained upon with gear. Every dungeon you've done is just threw a bunch of gear at you, but a lot of the gear was useless. In Shadowlands, gear is a massive upgrade in terms of your performance, like jumping 10 item levels is huge compared to the last expansion. But also acquiring that gear became a lot harder, and Mythic Plus right now has been one of those systems out of all the three of raiding, PvP, and Mythic Plus, one of those endgame content that just simply wasn't as rewarding. The item level that you get for finishing the key is much lower than even a heroic raid, and the only way for you to get good gear from Mythic Pluses is to wait for that weekly chest to get yourself something good. Valor Points are going to be brought in, and like Conquest gear, is going to give you a higher item level to upgrade your gear to up to a maximum of 220. Maybe at some point Blizzard will allow Mythic Plusers to get to 226, maybe with doing higher end keys. The way you upgrade the item level of your Mythic Plus gear is by finishing all Mythic Plus dungeons at a certain level. So finishing all of them at a 5 will reward you a certain item level, getting them all at a 10 will give you an achievement as well as an item level, and getting your KSM achievement will give you the mount as well as 220 maximum upgrade item level. The Valor Points can be earned through a variety of ways. One of them through Mythic Pluses, but if for someone who doesn't really do, let's say, a lot of Mythic Plus, you might not want to get 10 keys done on every single one of your ults because, you know, you have multiple characters to maintain. But you can also earn it through callings as well. There is a cap to Valor Points every single week, just like Conquest, so you won't really feel like you have to grind it all out in a single sitting. This system, while not perfect, is at least a step in the right direction to allow players to upgrade their Mythic Plus gear and get at least something even if you don't get anything from that run. But also being able to find certain pieces inside of dungeons, and even if you didn't get lucky from your weekly vault to get that best in slot trinket, weapon, or whatever it may be, to at least be able to upgrade it to a guaranteed item level of 220. Once you have acquired the piece from the dungeon itself, you can then wait, save up the Valor Points, and upgrade it to a higher level. So at least it's a guaranteed system they're adding into 905. Another thing that people always talk about with your Mythic Pluses is the Pugs. The Pugs always leave the keys. If you have one bad pull, or the tank is AFK for more than 2 seconds, or if the TPS is complaining too much, the tank and the healers can just leave, and pugging keys can be sometimes difficult. Some players, in particularly when it comes to higher level keys, don't even want to finish the keys and they'll just bail out if the group, let's say, fails after the first boss or the second. It's even worse when you're just about done with every single boss and then people just leave because, well, it looks like you're not going to be two-chesting that key at a 6. Now, groups and pugs can be really cruel. However, Blizzard is trying to at least add a system where pugs are discouraged from leaving keys even if they are dead keys. Even if you fail to time a key, you'll be able to get a second piece of gear from that Mythic Plus dungeon. Now, one of those pieces will be on level to that dungeon, so let's say you do a 6, it'll give you item level equivalent to finishing a 6. But then it'll reward you with a second piece to one of the members of the group, and it'll be a item level lower equivalent to like a 5. So whatever key you're running right now, so let's say you're trying to get a 15 done, if you fail to do that key, it'll drop a second piece as if you were to -1 your key level, and that'll be your reward. So let's say you get a 15 done, you get a 210, and then you also get a 207 as an extra piece for finishing that dungeon. Hopefully this will discourage certain pugs. I don't really know if it'll help at the higher end, but it'll definitely help at the lower end for players that are just trying to get the weekly keys, that are not really looking for any kind of challenge or really any kind of crazy push. People that play the game casually, trying to gear out their ults maybe, and just want to make sure that they get their 8 done without somebody in the group just bailing once one pulls goes accidentally wrong. Another thing Blizzard is doing is trying to make the weekly vault for the raiders a little bit better to get gear from. So right now you need to do 3 bosses in order to get 1 piece of gear from the raid. You need to do 7 bosses in order to get another piece, and the full completion in order to get 3 pieces. Blizzard's going to be changing that to a combination of 3, 6, 9. So for the first piece, you'll still need to kill 3 bosses. For the second one, you'll only need to kill 6 bosses, so that excludes the Sludge Fist, which sometimes can be quite a challenging boss depending on your progression and your experience, but the other bosses are fairly doable. And then finally, even if let's say cannot defeat Denathrius, completing at least 9 out of 10 bosses will give you a little bit more loot. The system by itself and the change isn't bad. That means you need to do less bosses in order to get the same amount of loot. So even if let's say you miss out on one of the bosses, you can still get for the most part full completion. However, I would adjust it slightly from a mythic rating perspective. I think they should lower the number 3 bosses to maybe 2. Because let's say you have a raid group that is more than 20 people. Not everybody for your reprog or reclear is going to be able to kill every single boss. And trying to manage who is going to get which bosses, who isn't going to get which bosses, just to maximize the loot you get for the weekly vault can sometimes be difficult. Lowering the first number from a 3 to a 2 will allow more groups a little bit more flexibility. If let's say you're someone who doesn't really get a lot of playtime because you're playing a different class that isn't part of the meta, or playing a spec that also isn't part of the meta, or you're one of the healers that's getting rotated because rest of shamans are good on one fight, holy paladins are good on the other. So if you are one of those players that is having to sit on the bench, and sometimes players are benched not because they're bad, but because the fights require somebody else from the group, then it would definitely help out those players that are benched in order to be able to get at least one chance at loot from Castle Nathria on Mythic, even if they don't end up having too much play. Anyway, that's going to be all the systems that are getting added for gearing in 9.05, and we expect a ton more systems and iterations on these systems to be added in patch 9.1. But this is everything we have so far, and it was kind of enjoyable for me to catalog it all in one video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about all these updates, and what could Blizzard do more in patch 9.1? Thank you all, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.